You are traveling through another dimension. A dimension of confusion, banality, and shattered expectations. A journey awarded to you by a small red pill. Your next stop, the MGTOW Zone.
Dave! Doc Hallen's been killed.
Doc Hallen, what happened?
It's over at his place. You gotta come now.
Oh, wait a minute, Steve. Tell us what happened.
Well, I'm trying to tell you. Now, this thing had killed the doc.
Well, what was it?
Stop with it, kid. Well, it's kind of like a mass. It keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Every one of you watching this screen, look out. Because soon, very soon, the most horrifying monster menace ever conceived will be oozing into this theater.
Now, before we begin this next chapter, I'd like to show you a clip that I, seemingly by kismet itself, stumbled upon not long after I posted the first video of this series. I do not know the author, but I can make a guess, and it was probably produced in India or maybe Pakistan. I don't know. Check it out. Let me know what you think. I believe that this short clip sums up everything that I have intended to portray in this series. And for those of you who do not have the experience or understanding of what I'm about to spill on the floor, let me say this. There is a blurred line that exists when religion and culture collide and share the same kiddie pool, which is inevitable in this world. Now, I know that some people have made comments from my last video, and they showed genuine concern over me expressing these controversial opinions about Islam or religion and gynocentrism, and all of this in contrast to the media brainiac of our daily lives. But rest assured, I'm okay, and you have not seen nothing yet. Now, watch this short video so that it may better introduce you to the concepts I'm trying to reveal. Yes, you read that right. It did say that religion protects women. But that statement is such a far cry from what feminism and its idle gynocentric hands scream to you over the television sets of the West. But is that statement true? Well, in my opinion, it is. But at the same time, it isn't. First of all, remember how I mentioned that there is a blurred line between culture and religion? And this is regardless of where you come from or which deity you submit to. But if you break it down, if you observe and reflect, if you pause for just a moment outside of the media frenzy that is feminism, you will see that gynocentrism, it crawls, it creeps, and it will eat you alive despite your gods. Here is where we separate the men from the boys, the ladies from the girls, the honest merchants from the hypocrites. Islam does protect the woman, at least as it is practiced now. And I would like to paraphrase a comment I recently received from my last video, which ties in very nicely with what I would like to share with you today. Gynocentric culture is a living mass that even Steve McQueen cannot defeat. Now, here is the comment I received and I was speaking about earlier, quoting,
I agree with most of your analysis. However, this gynocentrism was not always around. In fact, the early Muslims had a different approach or view of women, in my opinion. Women were not regarded as sacred, but as inferior. There is a verse in the Quran that also alludes to the superiority of men. Therefore, the covering was not intended to honor them, but simply to support men in disciplining their sexual desires. A sexualized society is always a dysfunctional one because men lose their focus and aggressiveness, which is why in our societies it is highly promoted. In that sense, MGTOW should see that a woman covering her body is a good thing because they no longer have power over us. We can deal with their BS without getting an erection and hence being vulnerable to their manipulation.
And then he goes on to say to me, great vid. Did you hear what this Muslim said? He believes, and what he believes is a stronghold within the greater Muslim conceptual mind. He, like most Muslims, and I dare say most religious people, regardless of their God, believe that men are, by their nature, ready to ravage any woman that comes before their sight.
Oh, woe are we men! If not for the shrouds we place over women, we men would be victim to our own out-of-control masculinity, that surely by its nature coerces us into dominating them, the women.
Now, consider, how reminiscent is this of modern-day feminist rhetoric, this nonsense? According to feminists, are not all men potential rapists, simply waiting for the moment they can dominate a woman and devour her in our uncontrollable sexual desires? This is coming from a religious Muslim, not a radical feminist. He, so devoid of his own capacity, believes beyond his own common sense that he has no control when a woman in her true form is placed before him. Yes, this is what the majority of Muslim men believe. But the question must be asked, where does it come from? Does this come from their holy text, their Quran, their faith, their religion? Or does it come from their willingness, like so many men from so many cultures, to fall victim to and be devoured by nature's curse of gynocentrism? Now at this point, before I continue on with this series that I'm creating, I think I need to share with you, the listener, how it was that I became a Muslim and how it was I came to the understandings that I have today. This stuff I'm sharing with you. Now, when I was of the tender age of 31, I proposed to and married a woman from Indonesia who was herself a Muslim. And because the law in Indonesia here states that two people of different faiths may not marry, I had to convert. Yes, I was considered a Christian when I arrived in this country, and in order to marry a Muslim woman, one of us had to convert. The law would not allow us to be a mixed religious married couple. So yeah, if you're a Christian, you cannot marry a Muslim. If you're a Hindu, you cannot marry a Buddhist. You have to be of the same religion. But for me, that was not a problem. I mean, obviously, religion in my life before then was not a big priority. So it was no skin off my nose, nor was it any skin off my penis, because thankfully I was already circumcised. And with confidence alone, I warded off anyone that was determined to confirm whether or not my foreskin had already been chopped. And believe me, they asked. They were like, "Hey, have you been circumcised yet? You want to become a Muslim? Are you circumcised?" I'm just like, "Yeah, guy, it's done." Even if I wasn't, I would have lied. But anyway, all I had to do was simply state in front of witnesses the correct words, that I accepted the faith, and with all of that, my life's spine-worn storybook, well, it cracked open to the next chapter. Now, I've always been a curious person, so my first questions to my wife after marriage and becoming a Muslim were, what is this religion of Islam? What must I do? How must I practice it? How do I pray? What are your beliefs? However, I, being a man, well, apparently I had no right to such inquiries. Apparently, I as the man should not expect my wife to teach me of such things. And she did express this to me in no lesser terms. She basically said, "You are the man. It is not my responsibility to teach you this." Well, at that point, my Western male mind cracked a little. But it also did what the male mind does best. It compromised. So, with no guidance from my newlywed Muslim wife, I sought out other peers to educate me. When I chose to learn on my own time, I just assumed, being a man, that everyone would be in compliance. Look at this man, set out to learn about Islam. And there were people that said to me, "Yeah, you're doing a good job, and maybe I think your wife should be teaching you about this stuff." But most people, when I told them, like, "Hey, I'm new to this religion, and I kind of expected my wife to teach me," they most just met me with these glassy eyes. They didn't care. And at that point, I knew I was on my own. When a man wants to learn, he will, regardless of the obstacles. And so, as was stated in the title of this video, the so-called culture of women, it is a culture that persists like a mass that does not stop growing. Now that you know a little of myself, and you know how gynocentrism crawls and creeps and eats men alive, regardless of where you come from, the next step is to show you the real differences. And when I mean differences, what I'm saying is the differences of how culture and religion, like the saltwater oceans meet the freshwater streams, that divide. They create one. They create a divide almost invisible, yet ceremoniously revealed through a sense of taste. And that taste, that is the taste of men, what men once saviored, but have sadly lost. The taste men have that drives the human race. A small weight may have been lifted, small but substantial. Men, please stand together. It's time to get back your taste.
The female, not the male, determines all the conditions of the animal family, where the female can derive no benefit from association with the male, no such association takes place. Robert, not the male, determines all the conditions of the animal family, where the female can derive no benefit from association with the male, no such association takes place. Robert Reform.